Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Unique Peace. I am Janice, the Quiet Healer. I am a Reiki Master Teacher. I am a medium and intuitive here on Long Island. And today I will be joined by Tanisha Naughton. She is a women's wellness coach, and she is also going to talk about how she took her mother from being on medications that weren't working for diabetes to being a vegan, and she lost a lot of weight and her mom evened out, and this is going to be a wonderful story. So thank you and welcome, Tanisha.
Hi, how are you?
How are you this morning?
I'm well, I'm well, can't complain.
Can't complain. So your mom, she was sick for a while. I mean, not that she's not, stabilized, but she was sick for a while. And as we know, medicine doesn't always work. Pharma doesn't always work. So take us on that journey.
Yeah, so this was probably now about 5 years back, and she was diagnosed with having diabetes by her doctor and given a lot of medication. So one definitely being metformin, and they tell you you take it, this will help, we can help stabilize you and your levels, but nothing was working. My mom actually was deteriorating. She
Oh.
experienced, yeah, a lot of tiredness, fatigue. She actually went temporarily blind for a couple of hours in a day. And it was like, man, like what can we do? Because Western medication is all that we know. And how can I try and change this? Because I didn't want to see her going down this rabbit hole of just not being herself. And I should preface with, like, my grandma actually had diabetes as well, and she passed away. So it was a big, it was a lot of pressure. I felt, even though no one's putting this pressure on me, I just felt like I had to do something. And I feel like that's where universe just led me to looking up holistic healers. And I found people who were able to help others get off of medications and live a happier, healthier lifestyle. And it just happened to be through becoming vegan and eating and drinking and eating a lot of herbs. So I tried that. We changed a lot of our eating habits and started incorporating slowly different vegan meals, trying things in the kitchen and making a lot of herbal teas. And I was like, okay, let's see how this works because I nothing else is happening. So let me just try. But I had no knowledge. Like I literally decided to take my mom off of her medication. So it was definitely
We know how
risky.
doctors react to that.
Yeah, yeah, it was risky. I don't tell everybody to do that, but it was worth it because about a year and change later, when she went to go do her blood work, the doctor said that she was now deemed pre-diabetic. He was like, "I don't know what your daughter did, but tell her to keep doing it because you don't need your medications." So that was such a blessing. And at that time, I was also 30 pounds heavier and I lost my weight just by this lifestyle, just by cleansing with herbs that I never even knew about before. So it's beautiful what that holistic lifestyle can bring.
Now, did you find the change to be easier? Because I do have friends that are vegan. I'm an omnivore, not gonna lie, and everybody has their own. I
Yeah.
will eat you definitely eating more plants. I do believe that, a lot of the foods that we eat aren't good for us, especially the processed stuff. So take me on that journey because it's not necessarily easy for people to become vegan. It's easier to become vegetarian than it is vegan.
Oh yeah. So I would say, I always say this, I was in fight or flight mode when it was my time because all I kept thinking about was I want my mom better. So we didn't just become vegan in a day. I will say that. We definitely did start eliminating slowly. For example, pork. We got rid of the bacon, started having more grilled food, and then went to like pescatarian. But there was a lot more vegan meals happening, especially when we were at home versus when we went out. Then, sometimes, you dip back a little bit, but that's because we didn't have as much knowledge as to like, well, what can I order besides, fries and potatoes? I feel like
Yeah.
that part definitely was a little bit more challenging, but I just felt that we were extremely diligent. I became my mom caretaker, so I can be I can be a little bit militant when I'm like I need things my way. I want her better. I want her to be that mom that I know. So my situation was a little bit different, but for the person who is thinking about becoming vegan, I definitely always tell my clients like take it slow. Have a meatless Monday, where you take out one meal that would be with meat and just have that with like some pasta and vegetables. So I believe in when you take it slow, it's easier for you to stay on this path towards self-sufficiency and not dip back. You have to give yourself grace. Don't shame yourself when you messed up. I've definitely had my times where I've slipped back and it's like, it's okay. This is a new journey. It's like with any health journey, wellness journey, you're going to fall, but you just got to get back up and know that that's okay. And it'll happen a couple of times.
It's like when my mom breaks horses. She goes, "You're gonna get bucked off. You have to pick up, dust off, and show it who's
Oh,
boss."
yeah. Yeah. I like that. Yes.
So, in your journey, and you help other women, what have you discovered? Are there any commonalities for the clients that come to you?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of them have tried a lot of different diets, and what I consider is that this is a lifestyle change. So they definitely have been putting everybody first instead of themselves. And I find that with women, normally we are the caretakers of the
Yeah.
family. We put a lot of stress on our bodies. We're always trying to please others, but we're not pleasing ourselves. And when we're our best, then we can help everybody else. So I see that as the commonality, like, oh, my kids come first, my spouse, even my job. I'm always like running around and I'm not even eating enough, which is another thing that
It's
I
an
hear
yeah.
from.
I'm guilt
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, I'm guilty. I'm
I've been there too. Yeah, I've definitely
guilty.
skipped some meals, you know. But it's like, okay, well, your self care, it's not being put first. And I take self care as what you're deciding to fill your body with, because in this world, it's like the massages and the nails and all that stuff is great, and working out. But every day you get to decide what you're fueling your body with to help you do all these different activities. So if you're not eating, or if you're fueling yourself with pizza on the go and a quick salad, like that's not going to get it done. So yeah, a lot of women, I'd say that those are the top two things with them, and they're just looking for more of sustainable ways to help them on their journey, and a little bit more natural as well. Like they're getting a little bit tired of taking medications that they may have piled up. And another thing would be like, well, maybe somebody in their family had a disease and they don't want that to happen. They want to start changing their lineage a little bit. So
Right,
yeah,
you get that wake up call tangentially.
hmm hmm yeah.
So, um, when you're helping people and helping others, what do you find to be the most peaceful avenue to take?
Mm, question. Honestly, giving them space, I hold space for them to be able to just explain what's going on in their life without judgment. I hear that a lot from my, testimonials that I've gotten. I'm not here to be like how I said I was militant with my mom. I'm not here to be that person with my client. Like, and my mom is my mom, and I was in a dire situation. Now it's more about making this a peaceful situation for my clients, making them feel held, making them feel seen, and even loved to a certain degree, because maybe they're not giving that to themselves and they're not getting that from the people around them, that support to be on this journey. Because, when you have family members and you're trying to make a change, sometimes they're like, you're fine or you look good. Like, don't worry about the weight loss or how you're eating. You'll be all right. But it's like, no, if you have this calling, this wake up that you want to make a change for yourself, then you need somebody who's going to be there and hold your hand. So I would say that's probably the most peaceful way. I'm very relaxed while we're talking about, holding you accountable and making those changes or whatever your goals may be. So yeah, just making that space.
Wonderful. And how do you bring yourself peace? What makes you at peace?
Yeah, a lot of nature. I'm a big, big nature. I was in nature yesterday. I literally just took a walk. I'm either hiking or sometimes I'm just sitting down on the grass and I could be meditating or just looking at the trees and watching the birds go by. Yeah, that's really my biggest thing. It's just something about being outside, like the wind on your face. It just is calming and soothing for me. It's almost like a big hug from nature.
Beautiful. So you moved from Long Island to Georgia, and that's probably a big shift.
Mhm.
And being in nature in those two separate locations, because out here on Long Island we have the beach, we have nature walks and the arboretums and all of that. And I grew up in Colorado, so I know all about the
Mm.
mountains and the lakes and everything. So how's the nature aspect different in Georgia? Because depending on where you live in Georgia, you may or may not be near water.
Right. Yes, that's very, very true. So yes, Long Island, definitely a lot of water places. But what's funny is that I'm not I can't say I'm not a water person. I enjoy a great waterfall. That's my thing. So on Long Island, we don't have
No.
a lot of those. I was always going a little bit more up to find those sceneries. But I did enjoy actually in Massapequa. There's a lake that I used to go walking by all the time. You probably know what I'm
I
talking
know it's
about.
like
Yeah,
you're
it's so peaceful and beautiful over there. So I would just, sit and watch that. But I love being in I'm like a forest kid. I love being in the forest with the trees, and Georgia has a lot, an abundance of that. But I will drive an hour, hour and a half because where I live anyway, it's about 50 minutes from the city. So I'm on the outskirts a little bit, what they would consider almost country town, but it's not fully that type of vibe. So I can easily take a 50-minute drive and go find a waterfall because they have a lot of that over here. It's not the lakes, but I prefer to see a waterfall. And you can go inside, you can go in the water if you want, and it's really almost healing type of experience. But I love climbing up the mountains and being on the rocks, and I like the challenge that comes with that. It's like when you make it to the top and you just see the view, and it's so quiet, like that it's indescribable, and it just brings up this feeling of like, "Well, yes, I did that, but that's my self-care for myself."
right. And excuse me. The energy you get from just that
Mhm.
climb, do you find that that also is like, okay, God's got my back, or the universe, or source, whatever you call it, has my back. I'm gonna make it up. Because there are times where I'm not gonna lie, you look at a mountain and you're like, am I really gonna do this? I guess I'm gonna do this.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've only had I think out here, maybe I've done, like, 2 or so, but it's not what I used to think about mountains, like, you see it and you're just climbing up, but here, you're going through a lot of trees, sometimes you're going downstairs, like, there is a place where it's about 1,700 steps that we had to go down. By the time I was down those stairs, my legs were wobble, like, and that was one of those times I'm like, "How are we gonna do this?" But I did that with a hiking group. So when you're also I'm big on community and surrounding yourself around people who have like-minded interests. And it's like, okay, we may stop for a couple of minutes, but then you keep going. And I feel like their energy plus mine and source having my back, it's like you're good. Like you're gonna feel amazing. You're gonna be tired, but it's gonna feel good. And it does. It's like one of those intangible achievements in your life that you have every time you complete it. But yeah, just knowing that you're out there with the universe and your ancestors are there, but if you believe in that, like
Yep.
they're always with you, front, back, side, like they have you back, and that makes me feel comforted while I'm doing those walks. Because when I'm doing it by myself, anything could pop out, but I'm like, no, I'm good. Like I'm secured, I'm safe. Yeah, so that's probably the biggest difference actually. Like Long Island has animals, but out here, whew,
Yeah, Georgia has animals.
it's there are so many signs like you are in their habitat now, and just like be mindful. So
Mhm.
I've yet to see a snake or something crazy, and I've only been here for a year, but that's something that definitely has me a little bit more on guard. But again, I do feel safe when I'm in those places.
Mhm. So that is a definitely a challenge because, like,
Yeah.
certain areas of the country, you're in bear
Mhm.
country, you're in cougar country, and, they will eat you. Um, no. And you said, that you like to be in community and foster community. So how do you bring peace to others?
Yeah, I feel like honestly, my energy is something I get compensated on a lot. Like these are just things that I hear from people. I'm very laid back. Like what you see is what you get. And for me, community is it could be my Facebook community. It could be actually for this year, I'm doing my first 1 day retreats out here in Georgia. So it's been something that I've been thinking about. In New York, I actually used to do a Soulful Saturday event where I would have
Oh,
different
beautiful.
vendors. Yeah, and very big on the BIPOC community, just being able to help my mom, being a woman of color myself. It was something that I focused on heavily before I even knew that I would be in this space. Like I never thought I would throw events, but I was like, what better way to bring so many different kind of people together, also to create an avenue for other businesses to be able to network and showcase themselves. So that's just the type of person I am. Like, I want everybody to be seen, and I want us all to have a voice and be heard. And then with the community, where people who are looking for resources, whether it's with me or with someone else, because I would bring financial empowerment, mental health, all these things that I'm passionate about as well. That's why I love being a wellness coach, because it's not just one facet. Like, yes, I focus on the vegan lifestyle, I focus on mindfulness, but if your finances aren't right, if your mental health isn't right, it's going to be really hard to balance all these things. So with my business, I say I'm helping you align your mind, body, and soul. And whether it's through with me or someone else, you're going to get that support. So I feel that that's the type of way that I bring community to others, allow them a space to be around people who will want to interact with you, who you maybe you'll leave with friends. But in the virtual space, because after, when COVID happened, that was a little bit different. I had to shut that down. It became a lot of coffee chats and
Yeah,
finding yeah, finding Facebook groups that I could be a part of. Maybe I could lead something like a workshop, and then from there, that's what's led me now to be like, okay, it's time to now bring this back alive and let people feel my energy, and bring in people who also support that mission as well. Because now they can bring in their communities, and we can have a bunch of people just being outside and talking about our fears and challenges. Because I feel like peace too, you got to go through the storm to
yeah,
break through your barriers, the things that trigger you. And sometimes it's great to be in hermit mode, because I definitely am a isolate, like, I'll be by myself. Like, I love being in nature by myself, and I do like being around others. So I'm a balance of the two, but I am more heavy on solo time, because I feel like that's when a lot of answers come
that's
through.
when
But
we yeah,
yeah, you
recharging.
break yeah, right. That's that recharge. But once I'm charged, now I'm like, okay, now I can bring this to the community, and we can all talk about what's going on with ourselves, because some people need somebody to almost mirror to them what's going on. And that's what I'm great with doing for people.
Okay. And so during these retreats, is how do they work for you to bring peace to others and foster community? You is it like a vendor thing like you did here on Long Island, or is it more of a we're going to take a nature walk and then we're going to discuss this, then we're going to meditate? How what would bring peace to people coming to your retreats?
Yeah, this it's still in the planet, it's still in the works, but the focus is on igniting a person's soul. So a lot of somatic practices, we're going to be doing some movements, because if people aren't familiar with somatic practices, like shaking out the body, for example, dancing, it's a great
Yeah.
way to release stress. So I'm going to have that. There's going to be circles where we're journaling, because I'm big on self-discovery. So there will be journal prompts, and then we're going to share out meditation as well, and also thinking about sound bowl healing, finding someone out here who
Love
does that.
sound boys.
Yeah, so I'm big on music. Music is healing. There's different frequencies that can just help. When I have headaches, like, I go to binaural beats.
Mhm.
So, and then for me, it's also showing people to walk away with something tangible, because I'm very big on that too. So I'm actually going to be sharing with them how to make their own oil for their body as well, and for their face, just to walk away with, like, hey, you can make something that will cost you way less than what you're purchasing at the store, and it is all natural too. So healing goes from the inside out. So we're going to work on their mind. Then I'm going to show them different ways that they can use even juices as well, because I'm going to be having chakra juices there on site for people to try, and vegan food. So food that's nourishing them as well. So they're kind of getting it from all different aspects of how we're going to heal with them. But in terms of vendors, I'm still working on if I want that, but it really more is on the individual finding peace within themselves around people, but then also being able to share their different experiences.
Beautiful. Now, I always like to ask if someone would come to you, your client, your mom, your sister, your brother, somebody comes to you, I'm just having a really bad day. I feel like I'm going to break down. What's your go-to in your toolbox? What's the first thing that you would work with them on or advise them to do?
Yeah, I usually first let them say what's going on with them, like, let them express themselves. Because people, I feel like we live in a world where people say something's going on with them, but everyone's trying to find a solution. And first, I want you to be able to have that space to talk it out. And then from there, usually I like to either go with a meditation or journaling to see what's going to come up, like what else is going to come up for that person. Then from there, I'll take it from the wellness aspect of like me being a plant-based coach and be like, okay, well, if you're having some anxiety, like here are some herbs that can help calm you down, like lavender, chamomile, passion flower. Like have a cup of tea and we can have this on the call if they're willing to, they can literally get up and go make that cup of tea right then and there and then sit with that. I like to tell them like smell the aroma because tapping into your senses is a really good way to calm yourself down. So I actually have something called soulful tea session. So I'm saying that for a reason. Like I literally will be like, okay, smell the cup, feel the warmth of the cup, breathe it in, and then take a sip. And from there, now we could probably go into a different type of practice with them on that call. But I usually would start from there, calming them down, seeing where they are, and then move.
And do you find that that's the most rewarding for them, or they're like, "Oh, wow, I," because it kinda goes back to take a minute for yourself. It comes back to that, have you been taking care of yourself? Because the burnout is real, and a lot of people don't even realize that that's what's causing the burnout is not taking care of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. Like people don't notice it until somebody mirrors it back to them.
Mhm.
So that's why it's nice to journal it because it's like, oh, I didn't even see these things, or talking it out, which is why I like to let them speak first and get it all out. And then, we can break that apart. Like, did you realize like when you said this, how did that make you feel? And they're like, oh, I didn't even think about it, or I couldn't see that. Like, and that's why I said I'm a mirror for people because I'm listening to it, I'm taking it, and then I'm throwing it back to you, but just in a loving, kind of way. And now we can expand and we can have these conversations to be like, okay, well, this is how we can attack this. Like, and how does that feel for you? Because this is a two-way street. Like, nothing is a dictator here. It's like, well, does that feel good for you? Does that feel aligned? And usually the answer is like, yes, like I need these tools, and then we talk about, well, what can you eat? What can you drink to help support this as well? Here's some recipes, here's a meal plan, here's some herbs as well. Because a lot of herbs are healing. So when you're dealing with anxiety, when you have depression, like sometimes your body just needs a detox from a lot of things. Cause I believe like if you're constantly watching the news, like sometimes I tell clients
Right.
like when they come home, don't even turn on the TV. Like try going like 2 days, no TV, and let's see what happens. But giving them different practices to try, of course. Listen to a podcast, something that makes you laugh, because when you're upset, like you need joy. So I'm big on that myself too. Like if I have a bad day, like I'm putting on an old comedian that I like to just, ignore the noise if you're not used to sitting with yourself. Because sometimes meditation isn't it. And I know that for people as well, they're like, I can't just sit there. Okay, well, what about walking? Does that work for you? So every client is different. And I'm very big on curtailing something to the individual and seeing what makes them feel happy and what is comfortable for them.
Now, what was your turning point? I know we talked about your mom, and that's
Mhm.
part of it. But what was your turning point? What was Tanisha's wake up call? Like, hey, I need to find some peace. I need to help my mom. I need to not be the boiling frog. When did you realize you were in that boiling pot and that you had to do things differently to find peace and wellness?
Yeah, so it actually came after my mom's situation for me. What opened my eyes with my mom was the vegan lifestyle. But my spirituality didn't come until about maybe like a year after that. And it's because I was in a job that it was okay, like for what it was, but I just kept feeling like there's something more. And I didn't know what it was exactly, but universe knew how to lead me. So I started going to a lot of different vegan festivals. And at these festivals, I'm meeting a lot of spiritual people. I'm meeting people who have the crystals and who are talking to me about herbs. It started a big journey started with my hair, where I used to perm it, do all the different things to my hair.
I'm sorry, I hear the word perm and I'm like, no.
Yeah, I did it all. Keratin, and I came to a point where you start being around these different people who are natural healers, and I was like, okay, this doesn't seem bad, like why would I be putting all these different chemicals in my body, in my hair? And I ran into a natural hairstylist who used tea for your hair. And I was like, this is fascinated. Like I want to try it. I was so excited. I was like, okay, so I did the chop. I cut off all that dead weight,
Yeah.
and I tried it. I was like, this is really I love this. And also, what another catalyst for me was I actually was coming out of a terrible relationship that brought up for me the first time of depression that I didn't even know it then. It wasn't until after, because I was having about 2, 3 weeks where I was sleeping, but I wasn't sleeping.
Yep.
I would take a nap. I was restless. I was just crying all the time. And it was that. And actually, I was in an older job at that point in time that I was ready to leave. And I was like, man, I'm living, but I'm just going through the motions. And I didn't know how to get out until that relationship ended. Then I got a new job, and it was like, okay, it was 2016, 2017, when I started mountain biking, when I started going into the woods, because I wasn't this person either. And I was like, man, bike riding is giving me such a joy. It felt real freeing to me, just being outside. There was something about outside that just kept pulling me.
I'm calling.
Yeah, and I answered the call, and then from there, like I said, those vendor events, then I'm rocking crystal pendants, and I'm like, okay, I don't really know a lot of information about this stuff, but it feels good. And then I got into meditation, and it just started slowly, but I just kept meeting different people who would then introduce me to numerology. They were like, I was talking to you, and 1111 popped up. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, there's just some type of energy about you. I'm like, what is this conversation? But it was being open to it. And I feel that that's what's helped me bring me peace, is that the universe, like, you're having your own awakening. Because I remember driving to work bawling, like just breaking down crying, but I didn't know why. I'm like, I was okay when I left the house, and now I'm not. Like, what's happening to me?
I've been there. I've been there. There were times where I would cry in the parking lot before I pulled myself together and go into the office.
Yeah, it it was scary for a little bit, because I wasn't always in tune, with my emotions like that. And I was like, well, this is not the breakup, because now this is about a year after that. So my body was just going through some type of change, some type of awakening, and I just kept going with it, to the point where I used to drink heavily, and that even had to change because I just kept getting sick. So they took me down a a long road, up until probably about last year. So, and from every year from 2017, I've just taken on a new modality. So how I talk about journaling now, it's because I only started it last year. Like, I got introduced, well, actually, a actress that is vegan that I follow, she talked about the artist way,
I love
and
that book.
a lot, right? So good.
I love that
So,
book.
and I was
You
like,
gotta get away
huh.
from the crazy makers, so you did part of that.
Yeah, right, exactly. So when I heard it, again, spirit was just leading. Something was like, go buy that book. Because I was like, I'm not an artist. Like, I'm not. To me, artist meant you're either drawing, you're painting, you're doing poetry, but what we do as work is art. It's creativity.
Yeah,
I didn't know that, because I'm not, that wasn't a part of my world. And so when I started doing it, I started doing the activities, and she wanted you to journal 3 pages. I'm like, am I really going to stick to this? But I
right.
did. Every day, it was almost like I started looking forward to just jotting down my thoughts. And
Um,
from there, yeah, it was beautiful.
I remember, Linda Cameron, she was in The Terminator. They do
Yeah,
the
yeah.
morning they do the morning pages where you get up and the first thing
Mhm.
she does is she writes for a half an hour. She doesn't even read. It's kind of like almost like automatic writing, but it's just a brain dump. It's not like
Yeah.
automatic writing where you write a question and you ask spirit to guide you. It's just what's in my brain that is not going to serve me today, may or may not serve me, I should say. She just writes it out and then she'll come back to it later in the day.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and it's like, "Oh, okay, I could see where that would help," but it's just getting out because sometimes we go to bed and we've got all
Mhm.
the stuff still there.
Yes.
And so it's like getting it out so that stuff doesn't stay
Mhm.
there and clutter up the rest of the day.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
journal I've been a big journaler since high school or before, and I write poetry, so sometimes that's
Okay.
where a lot of journaling comes out. It's like
Yeah.
so journaling is a big thing that
Yeah. I feel like I was coming back to who I was supposed to be because I did journal in middle school and I used to write poetry in middle school and a little bit in high school. But I don't know, things just get pushed when you're trying to live that corporate lifestyle, the life that you think you're supposed to live and living up to other people's expectations. So that that book brought me back to the creativity that was already within. It just needs something to pull it outside. And it didn't happen immediately. Like I'm very transparent on my journey. I was just doing the work, but it took me up until actually this year where I started writing a little bit. And I'm not even saying that it's poetry, it just flows. And how that happened was through my somatic practices. So I'm a former basketball college athlete. So sports, fitness always was a part of my life. And I stopped, just different things, injuries, stuff like that. But this year, and it was March 1st, I just kept feeling I had a meditation that was like, go back. Why what's going on?
I'm sorry. I went to a school in Indiana, so the whole Hoosier state, it's like you can't
Oh,
go to a school that's not a basketball school. It
yeah.
doesn't exist.
Yes.
So we literally we kinda have 2 homecomings. We have the football one, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, rah, rah, and then we have basketball. That seems to
yeah.
be where everyone shows up.
Yes.
So March Madness is near and dear.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So I was like, man, this is just on point with the inner child meditation that came to me was just like, get back to what you used to do. And so just coincidentally or not, March 1st, I went and bought a basketball and then I started going back to just once a week shooting hoops. And every time so far after I finished playing, I started writing. I pulled up my phone for whatever reason, and now I'm just jotting down stuff, and now that's become content for my business. And I'm like, man, it's amazing how sometimes these things flow when you're surrendering and you're not trying to force it.
It's a beautiful thing. And surrender is not easy.
No, I'm still learning.
So
I
am I.
literally just bought the
Not
book
gonna
to
lie.
surrender.
Surrender can be it can be a challenge because there are certain areas
Mhm.
where you wanna control.
Oh yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
it's not easy, and it's hard
No.
to buck the ego. My ego spends a lot of time in the corner. I tend to do the corner a lot.
I'm still working on where to put mine. So I'll preface with I'm a Virgo, so I'm big on control.
Yeah,
I'm huge on it. It has been a journey to curve this side of me, and every day, every month, it's something new. But for me, through reading has been really helpful. These different books. I just bought the Surrender Experiment to see how that what that story is about because he talks about isolation and healing and that. So I was like, all right, let's see the Abraham Hicks, like all these different teachers I'm incorporating. Eckhart Tolle was actually probably the first person who I learned about the ego and your experience you can't put onto others, and people project their ways onto you. And
we do,
it's like, okay,
unfortunately, and we're all
right,
guilty. I mean, it's
right. Everyone's guilty of it, but it's been lately. Well, okay, I know that my parents had this experience, and I can't blame them for that anymore. I have to just understand that they're not doing this work that I'm doing. I'm being called to do this work, but I can see why they do the things that they do, and now I'm responsible for how I'm going to react to that. And every day, it's the same thing with food. Every day you make a choice if you're going to eat healthy or if you're not. And every day I got to make a decision like, okay, I know that this may be getting on my nerves, but how am I going to react to the situation? And am I aware of it now? I'm consciously aware of how I'm feeling and how I'm moving. So I feel like that is slowly chipping at surrendering and letting that ego and wanting to control down. But it's a practice every day. I don't think you ever become like fully like, oh, I'm fully healed. Like, no, every day you learn
every
something
day is
different, or
learning.
you're in a new environment that triggers something that you didn't even know was there. But the awareness I have found is the biggest thing for me to be able to at least try to surrender in different ways.
Yes, sometimes I have to remind myself return to love, and
Mm,
I've had a very challenging year myself, and it's return to love. And when I tell myself that and I tune in, it's much easier to surrender. It's much easier to say, okay, I don't necessarily like or agree, but that's not me. Or it's like, let's see how this unfolds.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. It's so funny you say the word love. That's actually what's on my shirt today.
I see that. I love it.
I'm moving from the same space. My word has been compassion, love and compassion for myself and for others. It's even
That's one
come
of
up
my
with,
Reiki precepts. That's one of the that's actually
oh,
the last precept in training.
okay. See,
I will,
it all it all
yesterday I will
aligns.
show compassion to myself and others.
Yeah. It when you move from there, I think that one, that's the way to heal the world is compassion for yourself first and then showing that like it illuminates out to others automatically. Even sometimes when you don't say it, they just see how you move and they feel it because energy is all around us. And that's been my theme for 2023 is that's how I want to move more. So when, someone is having a bad day, and even though it may trigger different things in me, it's like come from love, come from compassion as best as you can. That doesn't mean that you're gonna have these moments where you're like, oh, like I'm frustrated too. But the more you practice with anything, the better you get.
Yes, absolutely. So I think one of the ways that you probably bring peace without really knowing it is bringing that compassion to yourself and others. Because
Yeah.
yes, you do hold that space, but it takes compassion because somebody might say something that you totally just want to say, "Don't you see what's happening?" And you just step back and say,
Yeah.
"How do I speak their language so that this gets through?"
Yeah. Yeah. My clients are teaching me every day, you know, every day it is patience and yes, compassion. And I know it's working because those are the biggest words that I hear back to me on testimonials. Yeah, they get, their weight loss. Like I've had people lose 30 pounds and all these things, but it's more of that. Like they're like, man, you didn't shame me. Like you've held so much space. You were loving. I am glad that it comes through because that is the point. That's why I do what I do, and that is my healing journey. That I'm fortunate. I'm thankful that I'm willing to step into that power because not everyone answers that calling either.
No,
And I've been willing to do the shadow work and a lot of different things. I've even had Reiki done on myself, and it's been tough too. Like 2022 was a really tough year for me, understanding these different modalities and moving more from just I'm just wellness empowerment coach to I actually bring spirituality into my business and blending those two, and that's where I feel that it's it separates me from a lot of different businesses who are just like, "Well, eat this and, work out." And it's like, no, like the individual has so many different components to it. And how am I going to blend that? And that's what those one day retreats are going to be is I am going to have like a tarot person on site and bringing different energies and sound bowl healing to that because I recognize that that is all important
it's
to
all,
that wellness lifestyle.
and it also brings peace. It keeps the retreat and the community calm.
Right. I mean, yeah, without peace, balance in the chaos is actually my other theme. So, how to do that, and just bring peace. Yeah, just bring peace to you and to others.
I think that is a great way to pull things out of people is to show them where they can bring peace to themselves and to others. I think that's a great toolbox item.
Yeah. Oh no, I definitely agree. I'd say from, these words that we've been saying, like peace, love, compassion, like those are it.
Wonderful. Now, if you are interested in learning more about what Tanisha does and what she has to offer, you can go to misswellnessllc.com and you have, is it up to date? Everything's up there, what you have to
Everything's
offer, retreats and all of
yeah.
that.
So the only thing that's not there is the retreats because I'm currently working on that. That's not going to be until September. So that's literally an idea that came through in the past couple of weeks.
Isn't
So,
it
but
around your birthday?
oh wow, yeah. So it's actually after my birthday. The plan is for the fall equinox.
Okay, because
That
that explains 9:23. All right, well, we'll talk offline.
yeah, yes, yes, absolutely.
Um,
Everything's with intention that I do.
Yes, I believe that. So I want to encourage everyone to reach out to Tanisha, especially if you are interested in a more healthy lifestyle when it comes to food and a healthy wellness lifestyle as a whole, with the incorporation of treating the mind, body, and soul. And I thank Tanisha for being on with us this morning.
Thank you.
And I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you.